Hello, welcome to part 2 in this series of generating sounds from scratch using the Korg ES2 drum machine. Everything you just heard, well no, most of the things you just heard in that little jam there was made from my last video in kick drums. You can go and watch that if you haven't. Except for this clap sound, and I think this hi-hat sound as well, which came from the clap sound. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to jump in and see how I made this clap sound using no samples. This is a sampler, but all of the sounds came from within the bowels of this machine, nothing external. So that's what we're going to do. Let's jump in. Okay, so this is the sound you just heard from the jam. The original sound actually is pitched up slightly. This is the sound that I created. So that's what we're going to try and do today. We're going to try and recreate this sound. Now, the way this process works is it probably won't come out sounding exactly the same, because with resampling you can never go back and undo what you just did. So we might get something different, might be good, might be bad, but that's the process. So let's just have a go. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is generate some white noise. Now we did this in my last video to make some kick drum sounds, just to prove to you that we did. Here it is. So 0, 0 is our white noise. That's going to be our bass for everything. Okay. So first thing we need to do is I'll put it on the screen. Generate white noise. First do that. Then next step is apply an envelope to that sound. Okay. So we need that to make the shape of a clap. So if we go into pattern, now I've set this pattern A2 to have some automation ready for me. So if I go to sample slot 1 and assign a sample, we'll assign this white noise, and we play from slot 1, then we can hear there's already some automation that automates this envelope. I explained this in detail in the last video, you can just go and watch that. Okay, so we're going from full amplitude to nothing here, and that generates our envelope. And we can control that by the tempo. So as you can see, it's going from 1 to 2 very quickly. If we speed that up, we get shorter sound. If we slow it right down, we get a longer envelope. That's what we want. We want a longer sound to start with for this process, because we're going to shorten it later. So we'll do that. Okay. There's also one more thing I want to do in this step. I want to apply an effect just to make the white noise a bit less, just a bit more characterful. So for that we're going to use effect. We go to effect and assign the phaser. Right. Great. That sounds really swirly. We don't want that. What we want is we want it to apply a static phaser effect. So what we need to do is, this is the amount and this is the LFO rate. So if we change it to fast, we get that. But if we go all the way slow, it stays at one frequency. So what we need to do is listen to the sound, and by speeding up the LFO we can find a point that we like it and then freeze it like that, and that will keep a constant phasey kind of sound. Alright, so let's try and find a good point. Let's just trigger it from here for now. Now for this, is kind of good to keep in mind like a clap sound, right? I mean, like that kind of resonant sounds. That's kind of the frequency you want. So that's a bit high, I think. So we'll have to go all the way up, back over the LFO and right down again. So. Okay, we'll try that. And you can see that kind of sounds like a clap already, so we'll resample that. Good. You have it in the memory. There it is. And like all the samples, whenever you resample, it's best to trim the start point, because it always gives a little bit of silence at the beginning. You don't want that, so we'll just clean that up. And okay, so we have our initial bass sound. Now, if you listen to a lot of to how clap sounds are actually made, lots of drum sounds, like a hi-hat, kick drum, they'll have one initial transient, and that's the main attack of the sample. Most clap sounds, they kind of simulate having multiple people doing the same clap, and of course people don't clap exactly in time, so you get a bit of a kind of flam sound in drumming terms. You hear people don't exactly hit their hands at the same time, so you get multiple kind of very, very short attacks. So for that, we're going to try and simulate that by making a short version of this. So what we need to do is change the endpoint of this sound. Okay, but we want it really, really short. So yeah, so that's a really short fade out there. Just a really short click. Okay, so that's good. We'll use that. We'll write that. First, we'll truncate and normalize that. Good, and then we'll write it to the next slot. Careful. There we go. So 30 is our long version, and then 31 is our short version. Okay. Okay, so next step will be to layer those sounds with those kind of snappy sounds and the long sound together to kind of generate one clap. So if we go to pattern, we'll go to an empty pattern. It's 5, 3, 4, fine. And then what we do is we go to this slot here, assign the sample. This one we want to be sorry, small mistake. The clap sound that I prepared earlier, I was actually using the slots number 30. So what I've done is I've just copied my sound over to 40. So we're not on 30 and 31 anymore. On 40 and 41. Sorry for that small clarification. All right. So we go to pattern mode. We go to the first slot, and we assign that to be our long sound. Then we go to 41. And assign that as a short one, and this one maybe we'll do another one as well. So we have short, 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 long, all at slightly different pitches. Let me just fix that. Okay, so we just get the levels right first. Okay, now so if you play those in sequence, kind of get a slow version of a clap sound. So we want to do that quickly, and the best way to do that, I find, is just to kind of stab the keys, stab the buttons like this. Try and just start with this one and then end on that one, so you're kind of rolling across the keys like this. So that kind of works. And this is going to take some trial and error, so I'll just do a few takes. Nope. That was okay, maybe. Let's just check that. Yeah, so you can hear that flam sound there. Da 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 da. That might be okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So we'll save that. We'll clean it up first. Okay, that's kind of cool, but I'd like to apply a bit more texture to it, and there's an effect that I think does quite a good job with these clap sounds. So if we go to pattern again, and we assign this to the sound we just made as our latest version. Sounds good. If we apply the pitch shifter effect to this, right? Weird. Okay, so down here we have the mix. So I think at this stage, on the far left here, you get purely pitch shifted, and here you get a mix of pitch shift and dry sound. Okay, so we don't want dry sound, we're just going to have it just on this purely wet side, and then we'll find a point. If you kind of juggle the original pitch of the sound and the repitched version, you can kind of get something that sounds a little bit more authentic. I don't know. So this is just a pitch shift by itself. But the effect. Because the way the pitch shifting works on this is you get a stuttery kind of thing, which is just adding more to that kind of unison chorus sound that we like in this clap. And you can see some hits, they you kind of land on a soft part, and sometimes it lands on a hard part. So that was a soft one right there. You'll have to resample it a few times, or you have to do a few takes of resampling to get one that sounds kind of good, I think. I'll do. That's pretty good. Okay, let's clean that up. Okay, so that's pretty good, if a bit long. So the next thing I want to do, I want a bit of a shorter, snappier clap. So I'm just going to shorten the decay, that's what I'm going to do. So I can do this in my pattern mode, in my little preset. I'll just use a sample editor to fade that out a bit. So let's bring the endpoint closer. Okay, I'm going to write it to a new sound. I'm going to write it to a new slot so that I have the original. That I can always go back to the long version if I want to go and make some changes. So there we go. And already that's pretty cool. Let's just try it in, give it a bit of context and see how it sounds. So let's just go to an empty pattern. Okay. Okay, so I think that's kind of cool. You can do more, apply more effects, so you can do several pitch shifts, apply a few layers of that. But one thing you might notice is that you start to kind of blur the body of the sound. As you apply more and more effects, it starts to lose. You get a nice body of the sound, but you lose the kind of initial attack. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to layer a nice hard attack with this version. That should give it a. That should just kind of juice it up a bit and give it a bit, make it a bit snappier. So just get rid of that kick for a second. Okay, so this is our finished sound so far. And if we just find the short version that we made earlier, there we go. And what we'll do is on the sequencer we'll just add one step onto this sound, one step on this sound, and now when I hit play, they'll trigger at the same time. So we just have to balance these together and we'll get something we like. Okay, so here's our original, and here's our affected one. Not much difference, but if you really want to, you could crank down that body sound and really crank up the snap, and you'll get something much snappier. Okay, so there we go. That's the basics. That's the kind of basic starting point. You can go further from here. You can apply more effects. You can layer sounds on top of each other. All these kind of things you can do just by taste. So I think we have something quite usable there. That's the one we just made. Compare that to the one we just did, I did in the intro. Very different sound. Same technique, but it just comes out differently. You find that slight differences in the pitch you set, or where you leave the phaser, or all of these things, they kind of accumulate into a different kind of sound. Same technique, but you get something completely different. That's why I like this. It's a very kind of enjoyable process to kind of leave it up to the machine somewhat to help you get something that you never would have done by yourself. but trying to hack things together with something that isn't really designed to do what you're trying to do can give you some interesting results, I think anyway. Okay, before we go, let's just go back to that jam that I did at the beginning, and let's just swap out those samples and we'll see how they compare. So here we go. Yeah, different. Better? Worse? I don't know. You decide. Hello, voiceover Alistair here. Just here to not try and repeat myself too much and say We'll see how that goes. Thank you very much for watching. If you've made it this far, there's one already. If you've made it this far, thank you. You should subscribe. You should do. You may have already. I mean, if you're watching like past the 17-minute mark of a video, you probably are in for the long haul, so you probably are subscribed. If you're not, though, that's insane. Who the hell watches a video at the 17-minute mark without being a subscriber? I mean, unless you've just left the thing on in the background and you've kind of forgotten about it, and now someone's talking to you directly as a non-subscriber. Maybe that's what's happened. I don't know. Anyway, please leave questions in the comments. There's stuff that I've glossed over. There's things that I'm not very clear on, I'm sure. So, just put it in the comments. I'll address it, in the comments, or I'll make a video in the future, going into more detail about things. If you have any suggestions, anything you want me to do with this machine, anything that you want clarifying, like, I'm thinking of buying an ES1, does it do this? And yeah, I'll go into that. So, yeah. Leave us a comment, leave us a like, because I like that. That's why they're called likes. And that'll do. I don't really know how to wrap up. I'm not good at wrapping up, so I think what I might just do is I'll just talk. I'll just keep talking, and then at some point I'll fade things out, because I'm recording this separately, so I don't really know how much footage I have to talk over. So I'm just going to keep talking, and I'm going to fade things out. Nothing I say here is of any importance. If you miss what I'm saying, it doesn't matter. It's all just filler that is going to be faded out. Maybe there's silence at this point. Maybe we're halfway there. I don't know. I haven't done the fading out part yet. This is just a part of me that's just streaming thoughts from my mind, trying not to say